Welcome to the Teaching Bites podcast. Here are your hosts, Fred and Sharon Jaravada.
Welcome to the Teaching Bites show, where we connect you with teachers and ideas so you can take your teaching to the next level. I'm your host, Fred Jaravada, and today I have a special guest with us. This person is definitely one of my favorite humans in this world on planet Earth. She's an amazing person. She is a professor at the University of San Francisco, and she's an associate dean and student academic services. Is that right?
Yep.
And also, when I look into your LinkedIn profile, the nerd girl extraordinaire.
That's me.
Very cool. But also, she's also my ex-roommate, one of my favorite roommates, probably the most intelligent roommates I ever had in my life. Sorry, guys, if you guys are listening, but it's true. You guys know that too. Okay, so, excuse me. So, Shar, fill in any gaps that I just, of the intro I just gave, and tell us your origin story.
I can do that.
Yes, you can tell your origin story.
So my origin story, let's start there because that's kind of informs the rest of my story.
Right.
Is that I was born and raised in San Francisco.
Yes.
There are very few of us.
Very few of us like me.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think when you are born in San Francisco, that kind of lends you to a whole mystique about what it means to be in San Francisco and how you are part of the fabric of San Francisco and how San Francisco is a fabric of you, whether that's creativity, looking at the same thing a different way, and being able to listen and to hear things in a different regard. So you see the different facets of any, problem, solution, idea.
Mm-hmm.
Then I feel that's just what the beauty of being born in San Francisco has given me. So if we were to talk about my origin story, that's where it all starts, is being born and raised here in the city, in Visitation Valley to be specific, which is spitting distance from where you were born and raised. And from there on, going to school in the city, elementary school and high school. I'm the product of Catholic schools.
Catholic schools.
That's right.
Yes.
So I did my first, kindergarten was in a public school because it was 2 blocks from my house. And then actually for kindergarten and first, and then we moved over to Catholic school. I won't bore you too much with that, but I went to school in the Mission, which was a lot of fun and amazing. Very different than the Mission that we know today.
Right. It's not the hipster.
Oh, no.
Tech industry, Dolores Park trashing.
Yeah. It was a place.
Group of people now.
Yeah. It was a place where it was very organic before organic was organic.
Yes.
It was, very diverse. It's, it still is in pockets, but, so that's, that also, again, has informed who I am and what I am today. Went off to college at Davis.
UC Davis.
Go Aggies. And of all the things I could study, I studied French. And that has been always a really funny story to tell people.
Pourquoi?
Parce que when I studied, I was originally international relations major. And what happened was I couldn't pass my econ class or my calculus class, but I was doing
really?
and you kind of need to know those things for international relations, but I was doing really good in my French classes.
Okay.
So being the San Franciscan that I am, it taught me to kind of chase your passion, and I was really good at French, and I was enjoying it. I had a good time. I learned a lot, and that's what I wanted to do. So I had it in my heart to become a French teacher, just because I had really good teachers in high school and good teachers in my undergrad. And then figured out that I looked at my life and I was like, I'm really good at working with people. And I decided to pursue counseling. Came back to the city and did counseling at SF State. And I think this is where you and I first connected.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, 95 was it?
Don't do any dates. You're dating me.
You dated 95 me. Minutes ago. So we reconnected back then, and that's God, how many years ago? My God, and here we are today, doing work together still. I mean, there's a lot of other things I could get into, and I'll save all of that for later. But I wound up returning back to USF, and that's where I am now.
Nice. And at USF, what do you do exactly?
All right, so I am the person who wears a lot of different hats. I think you might know this as being at a small educational institution, and we typically wear a lot of hats. So any given day, you could be doing one thing, then you could then you could switch gears and put on your other hat. And so what I'm paid to do, and my title is Associate Dean Student Academic Services for the branch campuses. So I work with adult learners at our 4 regional campuses.
Okay. So real quick,
Yep.
You'll hear some construction going on in our room above us right now. We have a sound room in our school, and they are finishing up the construction. So listeners, bear with us. Anyway,
It's a true maker space.
it's
if you
a
will.
yeah, exactly.
It's actually happening around us, literally and figuratively.
All right. So, Char, what is the aha moment that validated that teaching, that education was for you?
I think with a lot of teachers, there's always a teacher that we can point to as the root. And I think I understood very early on in my academics that all it takes is one person to kind of see the capacity that you have and to nurture that, and for you to teach you to nurture that. And so this was a person, I mean, I've had wonderful teachers all throughout, but the one person that kind of led me to this place and where I am today is my high school college counselor. Her name is Barbara Perea. This was at Immaculate Conception Academy, and she was fantastic. And one day she had said to me, hey, we have a visitor from Harvard who wants to meet students.
Harvard, okay.
Yeah. And it was, I think it was a recruiting trip, an alumni recruiting person. And I was a junior. I mean, I think I was a senior, beginning of, application process. And I was like, are you talking to me right now? Because I didn't know, I that was never in my realm. That was never in my sights. I was thinking, okay, I'm a local kid. I'm going to go to SF State. I don't really want to.
I did that too. Yep.
Yeah.
That was the track for a lot of us natives, right?
Yeah. Native kids, they either go to San Francisco State,
City College.
If you were lucky enough, you went to Cal.
Yes. Maybe San Jose.
Maybe San Jose, if your parents would let you go that far.
Right.
But so she, said, hey, we have someone from Harvard. Why don't you come meet with her? And so that meeting, I don't remember much more about that meeting, to be honest with you.
Right.
I know that I was maybe one of 3 people she pulled out to do this meeting. But that really had really sat with me for a very long time, that she believed in me enough and she encouraged me enough to really think about the possibility. And in doing that, I learned to look for that possibility in myself. Right. That it was not finite anymore. It was infinite.
Infinite. I
So,
like that.
yeah. So you move from this very small box that you think that you're going to be in San Francisco State City College, and like, whoa, I could possibly go to Harvard. Now, I wound up not applying.
Right.
For lots of different reasons, because, local kids want to stay local and want to be near family. And I thought that was a little bit big for me. And so I wound up staying here. But that really was a changing point for me. And to have people like that throughout my life consistently helped me to learn about myself more in any kind of context, and really ask me those really deep, profound, reflective questions that help me to think about myself and my space, and knowing how important those people are throughout life, if I could do that for someone else. And so that really sparked me to think about, well, okay, maybe I could be a teacher and I could help people get to where they want to go if I can ask the right questions. If I can spend 5 minutes listening, could I change someone's life? And that person, Mrs. Perea really did change my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps by listening to that. Because I was, I also experienced that one moment in time where I don't even remember the context of it, but the way it made me feel. And just like how listening to you, how you felt something that really sparked you to reach something that's beyond San Francisco. Right?
Yeah.
And that's hugely popular. I mean, very, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. Okay, so I know you're an avid reader. You're I think the only person that I know besides my late grandfather that has a photographic memory.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you do. You're one of those weird people on this earth. actually read something, and then about a year later, you'll remember it.
Oh yeah, and the details may not be very good,
Right.
but I can probably tell you a lot about it.
Yes, it's true. I remember one time, Shar. I remember when we lived together. I think it was a Friday night, or Saturday night. Basically, it was a time we were in our early 20s, and we just hung out, and we were just filling up this whiteboard with just crazy ideas. You had quotes all over the place that inspired me, and that's actually one of my inspiring moments. I mean, I remember that still. I don't remember exactly what we talked about. Something with education, but it spurred me also. In hey, you sparked something in me, and I hopefully can spark it in someone else.
Oh yeah.
It's really, 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 really cool. Okay, so avid reader, and you have a lot of you see a lot of quotes out there. Is there a quote or a phrase that you made it part of yourself and helps you
Like a
in your
mantra?
teaching? Yeah, like a mantra.
Oh gosh,
Keep it clean, please.
they change so much, and it's very situational. I feel, and I don't know that there's one per se, because I'm one of those people that likes to file things away. Like I'll never know if I need this till later.
Right.
And so I mean, the best thing, the one that I have right now for my work email is "Though she be but little, she is fierce," and that's by Shakespeare. And I think, again, going back to that finite to infinite, it's like you are bigger than who you are. And it's really, a lot of things in life are choices that we make. And that if I am making this choice to be little and to be in my little space, am I ignoring all the other things outside? So, and to go boldly. And I think that's one of the things that I really have adopted in the last maybe 5-10 years, is like to be bold and to be brave.
Right.
So another quote, if you want to look at that, is, it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission.
I love that quote. Yes.
I do too, and I've learned that's just taken me really far, because I think the moment that you start asking for permission, the moment that you start looking for approval, is the moment that your initial vision of things start to wither away, and you become a part of someone else's vision.
Someone else's vision, that's right.
And I think that's the part that's really powerful, is like, when you have this idea and this creative sense of self and what you want to do and want to make, go make it. And the moment that you say, hey, can I borrow, well, you can ask for resources, of course, that's important. But if you're asking for ideas and thoughts, and then your initial vision and power of it fades away a little bit into the distance. So being able to be brave and to take the chances.
Take the chances. Don't worry about someone else if somebody says no.
Yeah, because, you know what? It took me a very long time. And the story about this was when I was a sophomore in college. I was an RA, and I had a resident that was really good at singing. And so I had asked him a question about, how he's, listens to things and how he sings. Because I'm just that kind of person. I'll ask questions. And I think he had said something about me singing weird, and I stopped singing.
Oh,
and I was just like, whoa.
Oh, I shut you down.
Yeah, and it was pretty brutal. And I said to myself, okay, I'm not singing ever again in front of anyone.
What, did he do that on purpose? I mean, like, he wanted...
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because in your mind...
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have to also remember developmentally where you are at the age of 18, 19.
Right.
Is that you're trying to cultivate your sense of self. And for me, my creative side was very much a part of who I am. And to be able to engage in that creative conversation, or attempt the creative conversation, to be shut down, brutal.
It's brutal,
Brutal. And that goes back to my original thing about, when people listen to you and they encourage you. When people similarly will not encourage you or don't even realize that, because I don't think he realized it.
Yeah, he probably just was teasing you.
Yeah, he probably was, and just being that guy who lived on the floor with me in college. And I had stopped. And so and there are always going to be people who don't understand the vision. There are always going to be people who don't understand your motivation. They don't understand the appeal or the process. And those are all roadblocks that we all have to overcome. And the best thing that you can do for yourself is to have a strong enough sense of self that says, okay, maybe you're right and I can't sing, but that's not going to stop me from practicing. And it's not going to stop me from trying. So being able to kind of find that connection to who you are and your own motivation and not be afraid of that to keep going is going to be a game changer.
So when you want to hunt this guy down, or have you already?
Well, you know what? I have this theory that I've been working with students. So I told you about what I do for work is I'm associate dean and I work with adult learners, but I also work with traditional undergrad students. So I have a caseload of maybe about 400, 500 students here.
Wow.
I know. Luckily, I don't see them all at one time. But I work with traditional undergrad students, and being able to, to be where they are, really helps me inform my philosophy on the world. And I have a lot of students who I'm afraid of talking to my teacher. I am afraid I want to contest this grade, but I'm afraid. Or I don't like this class.
Right.
And my thing is to them, and I'm trying to build around a philosophy around this, is like, you need to learn how to hug the cactus.
Hug the cactus.
Hug the cactus, because, cactus, I need to change that. Maybe hug the porcupine. But I think at some point, we all have to face the scariness of it. And all of the students that I've said that to, and I think it's a generational thing. I think it's a millennial thing where students are, and we could talk about that. And I think that if students learn how to face their fear and to do it anyway, and all of the students who said to me, I don't want to do this, I'm scared, I said, hug the cactus. This is my philosophy. I think you should try it. And then if it doesn't work, then come back and we'll figure it out. They go off, they do it. We practice the behavior a couple times. So like, what do you want to say? What exactly is your concern? Then I kind of coach them around, okay, so maybe you want to say it this way, or is that really what you want to say? Things like that. And we often role play it. And they go off and do it. And then I will get emails. Some of them will text me and say, hey, you know what? I hugged the cactus. And they sent me a picture of their A-. It's like,
wow.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that it's magic, but it's also like, let's do it. Let's try it. And if it doesn't work, then we know.
Then you know.
But you can't sit in that. There's a lot of tension in that space.
Yes.
Where you want to do the next thing, but you can't. And become so overloaded. And then once you get over it and you hug it and you're like, okay, maybe if I move my arm this way, I'm not going to get poked.
As much, yes.
Not as much, but I feel like that's a thing. Is getting people to take the next step, but do so fearlessly, but to do it methodically, with intention, and with deep reflection.
Wow. I'm going to use that as the title of this episode, Hug the Cactus.
That's right. Hug the cactus.
Wow.
It's a thing.
I think that's one of my new favorite quotes. Wow.
Copyright 2016.
Creative Commons, please? No?
Oh, yeah, sure. Attribute required.
Okay. So, books.
Yes.
You're a huge reader.
Yes.
Recommend a book or books to teachers, educators, or people in general, just so they can, you do it.
Okay, so right now I am halfway through The Price of Privilege by Dr. Madeline Levine. And that is, I think the subtitle for it is, how affluence and material wealth are creating a generation of unhappy and disconnected kids.
Affluenza.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that whole affluenza thing is going on right now with that kid. And it's really interesting to look at it in the context of the book. I work at a private institution, and I'm not saying that I see that a lot, but I definitely see the material wealth, and I want to know how it impacts how students see the world. And this is part of my hugging the cactus theory, is that students like to have someone to kind of intervene when things are difficult. And I'm happy to do so, but after you do it first.
After you do it first.
Right. Because there is a process. And a lot of these processes involve, if you want to, think about change, if you are concerned about your grade, you can't have your parents do it. You can't have me do it. But you need to do it first. And this is all written in the process. And so, being able to kind of help students see what that is and developmentally meeting the students where they are and coaching them through that is really important. So that's been a really good book for me. I really enjoy it. I think you have a question about the book itself.
Have you seen kids bringing their parents? And I know you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago about kids struggling with that and they're having their parents come in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I see parents coming in all the time.
These are Gen X parents, right? My age, basically, our age.
Yeah.
Gen X parents.
I'm gonna
Why
guess.
do they do that? Why do they have their kids and they're compelled to go to talk to the school on behalf of their children if they, I don't know what the right phrase is, but how, I don't remember my parents ever backing me up. They always backed up the teachers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Be respectful of your teachers.
Right.
Don't challenge them.
Right.
That was part of our upbringing. That's kind of how.
And I
we
understand that in itself it can be not good as well. But why do you think this happening today with the millennial kids from the Gen X parents, of them coming into the schools? And what's your take on that?
I mean, my very small sample size will tell me that I think maybe because of how we were raised, that we didn't get a lot of that positive, like, good job, Fred.
Right.
You got...
No, I did not.
You got an A in that class.
I did not. So
Well,
what?
I didn't get that many A's in class either. But, the ones that I did, it's like, that's what you're supposed to do. Right?
Right.
And so,
you're supposed to do that.
Right, you're supposed to. That's your job.
Right.
As a student. And I think what has happened is because we didn't get that, we give that to our students. We, as kids growing up, it's like, good job, Fred. You went to school today. I'm really proud of you. And I think it's interesting to watch the pendulum go from one end to the next, where we didn't get anything.
Right.
I was failing classes in college. I didn't run
Very
home.
extreme, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't run home because I wanted to handle it myself. But you see that this generation of kid is very attached to their parents. Like, parents will go along with them every single step of the way. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
I like to see engaged parents. But I think there's a difference between engaged parents and I think it's really simplifying it if I say over-engaged parents. But it's also parents living their lack of living their lack of positive strokes through their kids.
Right.
That they want that the kids' positive strokes become their positive strokes. And so they search for it in a different way. And I think that's what part of it is that because we didn't get it, we want to give it to our kids. And that's not a bad thing. But I think it's also creating, the students that I see who bring parents in have never had really hard, difficult things happen to them. And when they do have difficult things happen to them, they crumple because they don't know how to handle it. And mom is 3,000 miles away. Right. So I have a kid, no one in particular, but I'm just going to say I have a kid who's from Florida, got her first C in a class, right? Final grade, C. Panics, doesn't know what to do. Parents calling me, what's happening, the student got a C, et cetera, et cetera. And it would be great for me to talk. And I was like, well, I don't know. I can't, because legally I can't talk to parents unless I have, permission and consent from the student on behalf of the student to this particular parent. But I'm always saying, well, let me talk to the student. And sometimes the parents say, well, I want to talk to you about it. And I was like, well, I can't legally because of FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So I can't release any kind of information or discuss anything related to the student unless I have express written consent from the student. But I'm the parent and I pay the bills. Like I hear.
Wow. Yes.
And I'm like, well, I understand that, but I can't release information to you. Can I please talk to the student? Yes. So, I think that's part of it is wanting to protect our students from difficult and scary situations. We grew up in a time when there was unrest and unsurety when, we had the stock market crash. We had, 9/11, 2001.
Right.
We had all of these things happen, and that we want to protect our students and our children from that.
Right.
And by protecting children from dangerous, scary, frightening situations, they don't learn how to deal with it, right? So the moment that something bad happens, you ever see a little kid? I don't know. You have a 3-year-old, and I see little kids sometimes do this too. It's like when they fall down, they're running and they're cute, all this laughter, and all of a sudden boogers,
and tears.
They fall down. They fall down. And then they look around to see if anyone's watching them.
Yep, I see that.
Right, you see that? And then if you react to it, if you're like, oh my gosh, get back up. Oh, are you okay? And then the kid freaks out and panics even
more. Yeah, that's true.
Right? And
That's so true.
And so, in essence, when a student gets a really bad grade and the kid's looking around and trying to figure out how to deal with that, they want someone to help with that.
Right.
And so, when we have students do, when they freak out over something bad happening, it's sometimes we have to let them sit there in that space and to say, what's going on? What led to this particular place? And to ask those kinds of reflective, scary questions, again, appropriately developmental for the, whatever age they are. Well, what happened? What can we do to do that? Are you going to talk? Should you talk to your teacher about it? What kind of questions are you going to ask?
Right.
And at least that's what I do for my students.
Right.
It's like, well, calling your parents, I can only help so much. I can walk the parent through the process, but I want to be able to help the student understand.
To figure this out.
Yeah, because what's big at my school now is adulting.
Adulting. I just heard that today somewhere on the radio, on NPR, I think.
Yeah, adulting.
Yeah.
Adulting is a thing.
Not adulterating or
not adulterating. That's different.
That's different.
See, that's makerspace talk. But adulting is the act of becoming an adult.
Wow.
I got to
what
pay
a concept.
I know, right? I got to pay bills. I got to look for a job. Those are adult
Feed
things.
people, right?
I got to get out of bed. I got to turn this in. Those are all adult type things, right? That students, that at least in my institution, are trying to deal with.
Right.
And so, and again, not all my students are like this. Some that are perfectly good and can handle it, and some can. Again, like I said, everyone trends toward the middle. In a normative curve, everyone tends to be able to handle it. But there are people who can and people who can't. And so, yeah, I think what's happening is that we're seeing parents protecting students, and that's a good thing. I think we call those, I forget the name of it. I want to say it's either... I think it's preventative. We want to prevent them from having difficulty, because that's what we want to do. We protect our kids.
You're right.
But I think also by protecting them too much, then they don't know how to deal. They're not
going to get vaccinated anymore. They're not going to be immune to these. What happens in real life.
Yeah.
When they get a job.
Right.
When they have their own kids. Right.
So now we see grown-ups, hypothetically grown-ups.
Don't know raise kids.
I know. So we see college kids and college grads bringing their parents to interviews for jobs, right? This is a thing.
No, you're making that up now.
No.
Wow.
I wish I was. But the reality is
to a job interview?
To a proper job interview.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I can understand if you're a ride maybe, but you don't walk with them to the door and wait in the waiting room for things. I personally don't know any students.
I would never bring my mom to an interview. First of all, she's going to get mad at me. Because
I'm going to take her out of her day from job, right? But I think, so that's a thing now. So this generation of student is very connected to their parents. They do more with their parents than they ever have.
That's a good thing, yeah.
Which is good. It's a beautiful thing. I think families should do things together, but I don't think that parents should be doing everything for their kid.
No, not do everything for their kids.
Yes.
The kids, like I say, me and Sharon agree on this, they need some adversity in their life.
Oh, my gosh. Right. Because that's how you learn.
That's how you learn, right.
Right? You fall down, and instead of looking for someone to kind of say, oh my God, that's a terrible thing, it's the end of the world.
Right.
It's like, get up.
Just get up.
You're fine.
And then your boogers, your tears, and then they figure it out.
And then they get up and everything's all right. So I think a little adversity builds character.
Right.
Not to say that students don't have character. It's just that what are we teaching?
Right.
It's sit in that space for a little bit. And I think to let students deal with that and to experience, not that we should be giving out bad grades so they learn how to deal, but I think understanding that and understanding the parental dynamic as a teacher can really help you understand kind of why your children are struggling. Right. Why they have a hard time, why they don't talk to you about things. It's because they talk to their parents. Because we have over-involved parents, intrusive parents, who want the best for their kids.
Right. You want the best for the kid, but
and I like I said, it's a beautiful thing. But I think we also have to let our students and our children,
grow.
They let them fall down and say, "Yo, get up. It's gonna be all right. Dust it off. Rub some dirt on it, and you'll be fine."
Exactly. Like, go use some Purell. Okay, that's very, very insightful and very powerful. Wow, Char.
That's one book.
Amazing. That's one book. I know.
That's one book. The other book, I'm sorry, before you move on.
No, keep going.
But the other book that I am about to start once I finish The Price of Privilege is Teaching Naked by...
I guess the cover for this, but you go ahead.
There's nothing on it's beige.
Okay.
It's Teaching Naked. I forget his name. Jose. I want to say Bowen, and I'm so sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but I know first name is Jose.
Mm-hmm.
You could look it up for me while I'm chatting away. And this is really interesting, as being like that nerd girl that you say. Because I love technology. Technology is my jam.
It is.
But I also don't mind being analog. And I think I see the more I swing to one end of being like purely like everything's cloud-based, blah, blah, blah. And that's, that's fine. But I really dig the analog world.
Right.
I think there's a lot to be said for the creativity that can happen online. If you're going to use Google Drawings, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But give me a piece of paper.
Right. Exactly.
Give me a piece of paper and a pen. I'm looking now at Fred's big Moleskine, and I was carrying one of these for a long time. Do you have a second one on there?
No, I have another thing on here, but we can talk about that in a bit. This is my 5-minute journal.
Oh, it's 5-minute journal.
So
I call that Twitter.
Yes, but I'm doing analog.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
so a lot of my sketch notes.
I've seen your sketch notes, and his sketch notes are actually pretty beautiful. I mean,
thank you. Yeah, it's not supposed to be, but it just helps me.
No, it helps. Right. I mean, I think if you're thinking about visual and learning how
analog,
to, and being analog, I think you could do a lot of different things. And he has a couple different colored pens on there. I love those microns; those are fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm using a Midori Passport right now.
That's cool.
Super tiny. I have a TWSBI 580.
And I was looking at your pen
gold.
just now. Yes,
with some Irish green Mont Blanc ink in there. It's fantastic, and I think you could do a lot.
Right.
I don't always have Wi-Fi. I don't always have my computer, but I can definitely have a notebook with me. So, I'm looking at, and as I'm teaching, and I teach 2 classes. One is Psychology of Success, and it's looking at the factors that make people successful in life. And it's, looking at self-discipline. It's the class that you wish you had growing up. So self-discipline, motivation, self-esteem, values, goal setting, all of those different things. And then I'm teaching exploring majors and careers. And so these are highly, 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 very personal things. And I think require a level of reflection that I think you have to put the computers away for. So I'm looking forward to really encouraging people to keep it very simple and to choose assignments that reflect them. I haven't completed my curriculum for the Exploring Majors and Careers class because I'm trying to figure out how to do it because I'm going to have freshmen through seniors in this class. I can't have the 5 same assignments. I need to have something that is specific to where they are in their life.
Wow.
So again, going back to developmentally, because I think it's really important, is that I want to make sure that a freshman is not doing something that's not right for them or doesn't fit for them. They're not thinking about grad school yet. Or if they are, how should they be thinking about grad school? Seniors may not be ready for grad school, but they might be ready for career. So I need to have, it's like, choose your own assignments. This is like choose your own adventure, choose your own assignments. And I'm trying to figure out how to create an e-portfolio or just a paper portfolio, like put it all together. And I want to see it. I want to see your cumulative learning.
Right.
And so I'm looking forward to reading that book to kind of be more engaged. I did a flipped classroom last semester, which is all the tech and all the lecture and all that crap goes before the class, and you come to class and you just have an amazing time.
You discuss, you talk, right?
Yeah, you discuss, you talk, you play. I think we learn more when we're having fun. I mean, if
you laugh, you
can laugh. And when those doors are down, when you can be vulnerable and you can be comfortable in that space, then I think we can do some really amazing things. And that's when students can really have that aha moment on a daily basis. Because for us, aha moments were few and far between because we weren't necessarily in that reflective space. So my job is to kind of get students to go inward by going outward. And to be able to have those conversations and to facilitate safe spaces where we can share things. And that's what my goal is as an educator, is we can still meet the learning objectives of all the stuff that we're supposed to do, but we can still have fun. I think some people think that in order to do these learning objectives, we can't have fun. I think there's a way to do it, but you have to be mindful about it. You have to be intentional about it. And your own philosophy of teaching has to be in line. And I think I want to share that with my students. Like, this is what I'm thinking what do you think? You know, and to be able to co-create the class with them, I think is going to be really important. That's a huge challenge for me right now is I want them to say, what direction do you want to go in? These are the learning objectives for the class. Let's determine a path we can go on together, and to do the class together, but also keeping in mind, these are what things that we have to do.
Right.
So let's do these, but how would you like to proceed? And that's how you get more engagement from your students. I see a lot of people who are burned out as learners and as teachers. Mm-hmm. And when we see burnout is about engagement. It's about losing that spark and forgetting the thing that brought you to that place. Those of us who spend enough time studying something is because we love it. And then when we lose that, then it becomes difficult. Again, we go back into that small box.
Right.
Instead of going into that infinite and, universe that's out there.
From finite to infinity.
From finite to infinite.
Yes.
So being able to, I think, that's my second book that I have on deck right now and I'm looking forward to that. Another book that I had read recently, and this is a product of maybe my Jesuit life at USF, is Tattoos on the Heart by Father Greg Boyle. And he is the founder of the Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles.
I heard about that, the Homeboy Industries?
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah. So he works with former gang members.
Right.
And getting them all to be, teaching them a trade. And getting rival gang members to work together. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? And I think the book, I think, is really important because it really helped me to understand that we have to be with our students. Mm-hmm. We have to understand their realities.
Their realities,
yeah.
Right. They go through stresses themselves.
Oh, yeah.
They go through life.
And if I don't understand the student's story, if I don't understand what Fred is bringing into my class, if Fred was in my class, if I don't take the time to get to sit down with Fred and say, hey, Fred, what's going on? I looked at your paper. I have some questions. I'd like to talk to you about it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Fred is dropping bricks and he's probably freaked out about it. But I think it's a really good opportunity for me to kind of understand and to see where he's coming from. Right. Now, I realize this is impossible in larger classes. But I want to question, is it really impossible? Can we ask these questions and can we take the time to, even like a 5-minute journal? Everyone put your, I'm going to put something on the screen or whatever right now. Respond via text message. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling today?
Right.
Little things like that. Or get a 3x5, fill it out. What question do you have today? What is something that you wanted to learn today? So some of those kinds of practices, if we do them on a daily basis, can really help us to get to know our students and understand the realities. Mm-hmm. Then I can fine tune myself because I'm kind of over this discussion that students are at risk. I think there is something about institutions placing students at risk, like creating that at-risk situation. So if I get to understand where my students are coming from, what their assets are,
right,
equally as long as what are their deficits, then if I get to know those different pieces, not just how they did on a test, but can I sit down and figure out what's going on? I notice this. I notice that you don't participate in class. I notice that you're not connected, or you don't turn in your work on time. Can we talk about that? And being able to kind of connect with Fred, who's sitting in the back, not always there, comes in late, leaves a little early. It's like, hey, Fred, can we talk about this? Fred was an excellent student, by the way. He always came to class. But being able to kind of have those conversations and getting to understand the reality of students, even if you can do it in aggregate,
right?
Like knowing what school you're going to, looking at the demographics, looking at where they're from, because it's not as homogenous as you think,
right?
And I think that's where the beauty is, and getting them to talk with each other, to embrace that. And I got that from the Tattoos on the Heart book because it was about, not just serving the underserved, but really being on the ground with the underserved and being there and understanding their stories and their realities.
Right. Not
just understanding, but being a part of that, and to be intentional about it is really important. So those are the 3 books I think at the moment I can think of. I'm sure there are others.
I know you ought to.
I'm sure there are others.
That's amazing. And I'll put the links to the on the show notes. That's amazing. Now, going back to the Tattoos on the Heart, and you were saying that you had to notice students, right? How about the other way around? How do you feel about the teacher opening up so that the students can know them?
Oh, okay.
also.
There is, I think, some value in that. Actually, I think it's huge value. I think we tend to think of the person at the front of the room as the authority.
Right.
Right? And once we start doing that, then sorry, I'm adjusting my headphones. Once we start doing that, if we become the experts and we are standing at the front of the room, if we don't build that connection to students, if we don't encourage them to see that we're human and we make mistakes too,
Right.
if we don't, if we don't let them know, I mean, I'm happy to share my story. I think it's important in that it moves the story along. So that's the important part, is that if I'm sharing for the sake of sharing, and because I'm taking the spotlight, if you will, and I'm moving it onto me, then that's a problem.
Right.
Right? So if I'm taking the spotlight should always be on the students.
Always. Yep.
Right? But if every now and then, if they need that little bump, and sometimes that means, let me tell you my story real quick.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a long, long, long story. It doesn't have to be like when I was your age. No, because the moment you say that, you can see the light go out in their eyes.
Yeah.
But they're very simple, easy way. And we call this in counseling, we call this disclosure or self-disclosure. And when you self-disclose, the goal is to move the process along. And it doesn't always need to be a story. It could be like, I know what that feels like. I understand.
Right.
Or
you were there.
I was there. I know what that's like. But you know what? Let's figure out what we can do together. Right. And I think the we is really important.
The we.
I think the we is really important because when it becomes you and I, then we are no longer partners.
Exactly.
So if I say, okay, this is what we're going to do in this class. I'm not saying that you need to, it's not as easy as switching all your pronouns out, but it's really being intentional about, let's say, we're having a great day today. Let's keep it that way. Or we're going to have a lot of fun today. And for you to kind of share your excitement about that, I think, if we're going in the direction I think you're going, and, where there is a very old school way of I'm the person at the front, I'm the expert, and I'm going to teach you all of this stuff. And then look at the levels of engagement for your students. And again, remember, we owe them that level of engagement. I think there's more that comes from sharing and being fully present in a class. And I'm not afraid to. I teach in a classroom that's very similar to some of your classrooms where it's flexible space. I teach in a residence hall. I teach in the formal lounge. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So formal. Okay. So
not back in the day when I was playing cards and
you were probably playing
deuces.
Spades.
Yes.
Yeah, where we could play cards in the back of the so I teach in the residence hall.
That's cool.
And it's a freshman residence hall. I oftentimes have people sleeping in the back because they have just come downstairs or they're seeing their friends and they have just crashed but I'm still they're hanging out or cuddling. Yeah. And so I'm teaching I'm trying to teach my class and there's people in there and I don't mind. But it's also, I think being able to kind of be where the students are. Where they're at, right. Be where they're at. They live there. So I'm going to be a part of that. It's really funny because if I see someone who lives in a building who's in my class, not in my class, but I see them walking out, I'd be like, yo, man, what's up?
Where you going?
You're supposed to be in class today. Yeah. So being where the students are is really important. But you have to also feel comfortable with being yourself. I think, my students I think it's really opened a lot of doors because they know that they can ask me questions.
Right.
They know what my
There's
backstory.
A trust.
There is.
There's a trust that you built with them.
Right. It's building rapport. Right. So, before we do business together in a lot of different countries, we have to have tea together. 3 cups of tea, because you just can't pound a cup and be like, okay, let's get to work. But it's really about enjoying the tea and company and asking those questions. How's your family doing? What brings you to the city? All these different kinds of conversations you can have before you actually get to the work. And I think being able to share yourself with students, I'm a big fan of saying, let's try it once. And if it doesn't work, let's try something else.
That's one of my mottos this year. So let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's, hug the freaking cactus.
That is the title of this podcast. Amazing.
Don't be afraid because, we have more to gain.
So, okay, you do amazing work. I mean, I'm inspired, but it takes a lot of emotional willpower and resources to do this. How do you avoid getting burnt out? Or you've been burnt out, but
what?
And you recognize that. Or have you been burnt out?
Oh,
I mean, this?
I think more physically than emotionally.
Okay.
I think it does take emotional investment. Mm-hmm. But I think my returns are such that even though it does take a little bit of time and energy, the rewards are bountiful. I mean, I feel like being present with my students and being able to be a part of their conversation and their academic experience, and for them to integrate me into their lives, has really given me the fuel. It's sustainable fuel. I feel like also, I was listening to your end of the year podcast on the way over, and I heard you saying that you have to learn how to say no sometimes.
Right. That's one of my goals, yes.
Yeah. And I think if you know how to say no, but come from a place of love, and I've had to have, I have students who want to drop a class after the class has ended and saying, hey, my final is tomorrow. Can I drop this class? Well, it's virtually impossible.
Wow. Uh-huh.
It's virtually impossible, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to say no. And I think as associate dean, I do have to have those kinds of conversations with people. Yeah. They're not always the best ones, but this is unfortunately the decision I have to make. This is the decision I have to make. I'm unapologetic. This is the decision I have to make. And this is why. And if you do it in a compassionate way, and if you do it in a way that protects the self-esteem of the student, like you're not going to come down on them. You're not going to, as we say, tell them about themselves. You're right. Going to be real with them and say, hey, okay, this is what's going to happen. And being able to have that in a compassionate way, protects yourself as well. Mm-hmm. And being able to have really good colleagues like yourself to like bounce ideas off of, like, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is what the direction I want to go in. But also, being able to have really good boundaries protects that. And I think there's again, going back to that, wanting to help students sit in that space and not protect them from it, but do so in such a way that protects their self-esteem, that helps them understand what the process is, and to, walk them through what's meaningful will help them, or walk them through what the process is and what's not necessarily what's meaningful, but giving them that opportunity to kind of really reflect on what led to this place and saying, well, I will help you every step of the way, but I'm just letting you know that this is what your problem is going to be. So being able to kind of share that vulnerability is really scary with people. But again, the benefits are there. And when I'm charged with retention, and I'm sure you don't necessarily see this at elementary schools or maybe even at high schools, but retention is an everyday job. It's not one person's job. It's the institution's job. Right. It's the teacher's job. It's the teacher's aide job. It's the cafeteria person's job. Everyone is invested in making sure that student feels heard, supported, or knows where the resources are that support them. So being able to provide students with that, that support, and also letting them know that I will walk this journey with you, but I'm letting you know that it's going to be very difficult, and I want to prepare you for that, because I've seen it with other students, or I understand what it's like to have a hard time.
Right.
I understand making mistakes. I know what that's like. So let's see what we can do together. Again, going back to that going back to that collaborative approach, going back to making sure this is your responsibility, this is mine, and setting up those really good boundaries will really help you protect your emotional, space, because you can't take it home with you. I tell my, my colleagues and, our friends, I'm going to my second job now. I'm going to go be a parent. I need to go home and I need to be fully present with my child. And I can't do that if I'm still carrying other things from work. Right. So being able to get into the car and to kind of let go of it, and learn how to meditate, inhale and exhale, right. Let it come and go, and then will allow you to be fully present. Because oftentimes my appointments are backed up solid. 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10, 10:30, all the way till 12, 1 to 1:30, right. And so I'm seeing students all day. And if and every question is different. And if I'm not fully present, then I'm doing the next person a disservice.
Disservice, right.
So I need to be able to kind of go there, be intentional, be mindful, and then be able to say, okay, do you have your homework now? Do you know exactly what you need to do? Tell me what you need to do. All right. Then I'm going to reschedule the appointment. We're going to come back in 2 weeks and you're going to let me know exactly what happened. Or you're going to email me by this time. And so all of the, making sure that students have their assignments, making sure they feel good and not being afraid. I don't push off my next appointment. I don't say, can you tell them to wait 10 minutes? I'm going to wrap up with this. It's very rare, few and far between. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do everything I can to say, my next appointment is here. I need to wrap this up. I need to make sure that you understand what's happening and what direction we're going in. And then if you're not feeling sure, then you can come back at this time. So it's being able to have good boundaries with your students is really important. And that comes with practice,
right.
And good supervision and someone to kind of say, maybe you should cut this off. That's why I love feedback. I mean, people are really afraid of having observations or feedback. And somewhere in your world, I think there's that opportunity to do that. Someone can come and watch you teach and give you some feedback. I love that because I want to get better.
You want to get better, right?
Yeah. And I think the moment that you stop getting feedback is when it becomes problematic. I got my evals from last semester. And there's a couple students who disagreed with my teaching method or strongly disagreed. I need to look at the number of that. I think maybe one person said that. And I was like, oh.
Wow, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm kind of bummed about that.
Even if it's one person.
Even if it's one person.
Even you had like how many students? 400 students, but you have one student that
right.
says that. It sticks to you.
Yeah, it sticks. But at the same time, I'm like, I want to know what that was,
Right.
and not to do it again. This is my personal cactus is I can't make everybody happy, but I want to know what I could do better.
Right.
And I'm going to go back and look at my curriculum, how I taught it, hug that cactus a little bit and then say, and do the whispering, what did I do wrong? Or what could I do better? And to really, I crave that because I want to become the best teacher I can. And I can't do that without feedback. And so evals are really important. I feel like we should have them more often rather than at the end of the semester,
right.
But I think we have to be brave to ask. And I have asked.
It's scary.
It is scary.
But you need to be brave.
Yeah.
Hug the cactus.
Yeah, definitely.
Huh, okay. Oh, wow. That's wow.
Feel free to whittle that down. I know it's a lot.
I think this is going to be a two-parter.
Whatever works.
No, but what you're sharing with us is amazing. It's I want everyone to listen to this episode. It's very valuable.
I hope so.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna reach someone out there that needs to hear this. Now, you have a child in your life.
Yeah.
How does that affect now? Being an educator all these years and all the experience that you have now, how does that affect you as a parent now?
So putting on my parent hat.
Your parent hat.
Oh my gosh! So putting on the parent hat for me, it's being really engaged and looking at what she's learning and how she's learning it. The whole Common Core math thing is really fascinating, and I think a lot of people who are against Common Core, at least my experience, don't understand it and are not willing to take the extra step to kind of see what the benefit of it. I understand it's hard to change the way you've done things over and over and over again because it's proven it's worked. You've done all the PowerPoints, you have all the worksheets, You basically get to learn a new way to think. And that's a huge challenge. And I think a lot of people fight against it. And I think parents don't always understand it. But I think as an instructor, I owe it to my daughter to kind of understand the philosophy, to understand the process, and to engage in it as well, And I let her do her homework and, I'll kind of review some stuff with her. And then I'll go back and I'll look it up. Like, what exactly is this whole 10 thing? I don't understand. And being able to understand what she's going through and also talking to the teacher about it and not being afraid, like, oh, I'm curious about this. Can you share some resources with me? I think as an engaged parent, I owe it to my child to understand what the academic experience is in a way that allows her to be in her own space.
Right.
That I don't feel the need to kind of like hover over.
You're not a helicopter parent.
No. No. Absolutely. I if that day ever comes, you can always we can come back and have this conversation.
Right.
But there's a helicopter parent and then there's a lawnmower parent. Right?
Lawnmower, never heard that.
Okay, so lawnmower parents are the ones who clear the way. Right? So it's like, honey, stand behind me because I'm going to get all this grass out of the way, and I'm making
Right.
this
Oh, wow.
lawnmower
Okay.
motion.
Uh-huh.
So they're clearing all the obstacles.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So I think for me, as an instructor, as a teacher, as a parent, I'm all for sitting on the porch and being like, go ahead and play in the grass, honey.
Yeah.
And figure it out. You may want to watch out for something over there.
Yeah.
But you're going to be fine. You know, so being able to kind of allow her to experience academics, learn about what she's going through, but don't get too into it.
Mm-hmm.
But also don't be afraid to ask questions of the teacher.
Right.
And to do it in a very respectful way, to say, hey, Mr. Jarvada, I'm really curious about this makerspace.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about it, without really saying, you know, I don't know why, why AJ is doing this and da-da-da. You know, and there's a way to come at it, and there's a way to be engaged in your child's academic experience that will allow your student to be a student, your child to be a student, and that will allow your teacher to be the teacher. You know, that I think that the teacher is the expert, and I want to know what they know because I'm really genuinely curious about it. And I think fostering that kind of sense of curiosity is really healthy for a parent. And I think on the other side, I think being able to kind of for the teachers to create some kind of information to say, this is what we're doing. And this is, you know, and these are the conversations that you may want to, these are some of the things that your students are going to be learning, you know, and point to a website. And I think this generation of parent is very savvy enough, can click on a link and say, oh, this is pretty cool.
Right.
You know, because I think we're expected to look at the homework and understand it. But the way that we have done, 87 minus 9 is very different from how this generation of student does 87 minus 9.
Right.
At the end of the day, the answer is still the answer.
It's still the answer.
Don't ask me to do the math because I don't know.
Right.
It's 78? I don't know.
I have my
Someone get
MacBook
back
here.
to Fred about this. But the answer is the answer, but there's a way that they learned it. And I think being able to kind of watch this, understand that process is really fascinating. And I love just seeing what she's doing. It's kind of cool.
Okay. You love technology. What's your favorite app right now, or website, web resource? What's something you can recommend that you use that other teachers and educators can look into?
Okay, teachers.
Or it can be, or let's open it up a little bit. Something that can help you in your day. Some kind of productivity tool.
Okay, I know that you're a big fan of Google stuff.
How do you know?
I don't know. Maybe it's the Chrome sticker on your laptop.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Google stuff. I think there's a ton of Google stuff.
Right. There's a lot. Yeah.
There's a lot, and I think as just a tech person, if you want to call me that, I love all the Google stuff. I think being able to collaborate on documents has made my life so much easier, because before it was Microsoft Word. Okay, so we have a Word document. It's called Mr. Fred's birthday poem, right? And then I need to have someone edit it. So I send it to 30 people, and then they all have edited their own version, and then they send it back to me, and I have to put it together. Okay,
yes, I remember those days.
Yeah, it was crazy. So this is how
They
I
all
used.
emailed it back to you too.
Oh
right?
yeah,
Yes.
or someone wanted to sit down with you and to do
or they handwrite it to you, and your job to figure this out. Right.
Yeah, come on. So Google Docs has made life so much easier. Like I can say, Mr. Jarvada's happy birthday poem.
Right.
Push it out to 1 million people, and they can all edit it and fight it out amongst themselves. And then I can lock it down when it's ready. I can see all the changes that people made. So that has been really awesome. I think being able to do things on Google Docs has been fantastic. Google Spreadsheets and all of the different things.
Right.
And I think as far as templates, it's been really awesome as an instructor, as a teacher, to say, this is the template you'll be using for this assignment on Google Slides. And it guarantees that everything will look uniform.
It's exactly the same.
All the fonts are going to be like awesome, and they can share it with me, and I have the timestamp for when they did it.
Right.
Stuff like that. I think has been really helpful to me. So if I were to talk about my love of things, it would probably be Google. That would probably relate to Android. I have a Samsung Note 3 that I adore, that I think is on its last legs. But I love it to death. It's the size of my face, but it's a great phone, and I love it. It allows me to edit on the go,
on
too.
the go, right?
Yeah,
it's all on the go.
Yeah, so I mean, everything is on the cloud now. So anything that's cloud-based, that's shareable, I think is going to be fantastic.
Nice.
I use Canvas. by Instructure.com.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, it's a learning management system, so I use that. You might have used Blackboard or Moodle.
Yeah, we did that. Now we're on to haiku learning right now.
Yeah, I think we looked at that as one of our options too. So using that has been pretty cool. And it's kind of nice. It's kind of allowed for a lot of flexibility.
It helps,
Drag and drop is my best friend.
Yes.
The moment that you start like, oh, I got to do this and move it over, then, it turns people off. So Google Docs has been good
right.
for productivity, I think, in the workplace and at home, personally. What I'm using as a professional is right now I'm using Slack.
Slack. Yeah. How do you like that?
Slack is kind of interesting because I have 2 student assistants, actually 3 student assistants. I just love student assistants. Because again, I don't have a proper assistant. So I have students who help me out with my work. So getting all of them on the same page with all the multiple assignments and projects I have them going on, it's all enclosed in one space.
Right. On
Slack.
Right.
Slack. So I anticipate this might be a really good tool for teachers if they wanted to share things in a non-secure environment. For
non-secure, what do you mean?
I think non-secure, like it doesn't have to be behind firewalls.
Okay.
Because I know some of the Google stuff has to be behind firewalls. Because I haven't looked at Google Classroom because I think that's a K through 12.
Yeah, Sharon's using that in her classroom and she likes it a lot.
Okay, so I think if you wanted to share something widely, you can put it on something like on one place like Slack, or you can probably do it on Google Docs not Google Docs, but like Google Spaces, or Google Groups, and so to put all the stuff there so parents can access it and share information and communicate back and forth. I think what I'm trying to do, and the reason why I moved to Slack was because I wanted to get off email, because I am a god at searching on Google, because I can find all the emails, I can find all the has attachment, is unread, from Fred, I can find all of these things, but I think getting all of my communications related to projects off of email into Slack really kind of makes it a little bit more homegrown. It kind of feels more together. It's more containable, right? It's like you're not looking for threads and searching for that. It's kind of crazy, right? Yeah, it is very, very crazy. Yeah, we're trying Slack right now. The past 2 years we've been trying it out. Yeah. We're still trying to figure that out for our school. But it's interesting. I know a lot of tech companies, a lot of companies actually are using that, and I hear a lot of good things about it. Right. And I think philosophically, what we had to do to make it work, what I had to do with my students to make it work, was never email me about work projects. Right. Go right on to Slack, and so it's all contained in that space. And I think that's what the recommendation is from Slack, is to stop using the email and to use it there. And so you may want to think about making it smaller and saying Makerspace is only going to use Slack. And then anything related to Makerspace, you have to do it that way. Right. Or, so there's a way to do it that makes it more intuitive. And I think if you are trying to do it as a large organization, you have to really kind of be willing to jump into it. There's someone outside of our door in a ladder. Yep, there are 2 guys actually in the ladder right now. We're stuck in here. Well, I guess we got to keep going. So those are my tech things. That's cool. So Slack and Google Apps are fantastic. For me, as an instructor, I also use Google Voice. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one because it rings my cell phone and my office at the same time. And I can also communicate on my laptop if I need to. Right. And this is a good way for me to leave text messages for students. Right. And I can actually get timestamps and I can see it. So that's worked really well for me. Kind of fun stuff that I play with, too, in my class are things like polleverywhere.com. Okay. If I want to poll my students, it's free for teachers if it's under 40 users, so 39 plus you, or 38, whatever your situation might be, if you have teacher's aid. So it's, being able to ask questions, and people can use their phones. And my students love using their phones. Yes. They're college, they're tied to their hip. I'm one of those teachers that right now I'm okay with you using a laptop in class. I had some students say they take notes on their phone, and I was like, really? That's what you're doing? It's like, come on. Right, exactly. Like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you on your phone right now. So I'm willing to kind of let students use their technology because, again, it's meeting them where they are. They're already on their laptops taking notes in their class, so why not vote? Right. Again, that kind of is almost counterintuitive to what I want to do, which is to take the laptops out. But it's like, if we're going to do laptop stuff, we're going to do it because we are going to do something on our laptop.
Right. It's enhancing something, right?
Yes. It's not the be-all, end-all. I don't necessarily want you to take notes on every single word I'm taking, but let's engage and put the laptops down. Because once you're engaged and you're not ticky-tacking and looking at all your messages coming up, because I know they're popping up in front of you. I know you're on Facebook. I know you're taking pictures of yourself in class because I see you doing it. Because I see your Twitter feed. So polleverywhere.com has been fantastic for my usage. Word clouds. I'm trying to remember the one that I've been using.
Tagxedo or Wordle.
Wordle. I've been using that.
Yeah, those are two popular ones.
Yeah. So Wordle I use. Also, I use Twitter a lot. You might know me best by my Twitter handle, I tweet USF, and that is the unofficial USF Twitter voice for USF.
That's cool. Yeah,
it is cool. Again, that's going back to that. I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And so, I hate to say that I've been institutionalized somewhat, but I am now on the radar about that. So.
Now, how do you get teachers inspired to use technology, or innovate, or get better at technology? Or
I think I'm trying to think of specific individuals and how I've been able to do it with them. And I think what happens is you need to demystify it. I think technology is very scary for people who have a learning curve. And this way has always worked for me. So why should I do it any different? It's something new that I have to learn. And I think what happens is that we have to make the time to train. And I think training is really important, that you need to, clear your calendar.
Yes.
Let's sit down and let's play. And being able to show you how this works. And I think that's why camps are really good. It's like, let's do like a camp every Friday, 2 to 4 or 4 to 5, whatever, over wine. And let's create, let's create something together. Let's make something. Or let me show you how this works. And being able to do it in a very compassionate way. Again, if we're going to talk about how we meet our students where they are, we need to meet our colleagues where they are.
Right.
And to say, well, let me see if I can make this a little easier for you.
Yeah.
I noticed that you were doing this manually. How would it, can we do it this way? And maybe sometimes it does take a little bit of help. Like, well, if all your PowerPoints are here, if you want to, if you're thinking about doing podcasts for your PowerPoints, so that way you don't have to do the lectures anymore in class, let me show you how to do that.
Right.
And I think it's really as easy as demystifying it and to be compassionate about it, but also showing our colleagues that this is a new world, and it's not as scary as you think it is.
It's not as scary, no.
It's really not, because I think at the end of the day, teachers really like having fun, and they see the joy in teaching. And I think this is another way to say, it might seem like I'm making a lot of work for you, or this is making a lot of work for you, but this will allow you to have fun in your class. This is going to free up your time. Right. So the homework could be, listen to this podcast real quick. It could be a 15-minute quick lecture. This is something that's really important. I want you to think about it. Come to class, be prepared to discuss it.
Right, exactly.
And that's it. That's all you had to do. And the way that I took a quick peek at the Teaching Naked book, and it says, think of it as a voicemail. It's like, and that's, I can do voicemail. I've left voicemail before. So imagine you leaving a voicemail for your students. Right. And
that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. A podcast is just, really engaging and long voicemail. And I think being able to know what the paper tech is behind it. So we have our notebooks. What exactly do I want to say? What are the points I need that I want to nail? You have that written down, and you're just doing your voicemail about it. Right. That's it. That's all it is? Yeah. You can, and being able to create something doesn't need all of this complex equipment.
No, you don't.
You don't need to have 2 mics and a mixer and a recorder.
You don't need that.
You don't need laptops. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a phone, you can probably do it. If you want to go, you can just get a recorder and still do it that way. So there's lots of ways to do the thing. Right. That if we demystify it and make it a little bit simpler, I think people will be more willing to go there.
No, those are very true words, and that's what we're doing in my school also. We're just trying to simplify things and demystify it. It's not that we just need to take one step at a time, small steps. And we also have, we don't do it with wine yet. We do it with Thai foods. We have TGIF. We have Makerspace going on, open studio for kids, Monday to Thursday. But on Fridays, we have something called the Teachers Gonna Innovate Fridays, where we invite teachers to come in and play with things. Play with the robots, play with the cublets, play with the 3D printers, and just have fun over Thai food that we order from the local restaurant. And it's a nice break. It's a nice break from the usual PD happening, or bring your own bag or whatever, lunch and so on. But I think I definitely agree with you that, keep it simple, keep it fun. Yeah. And one day we'll have wine up here. I don't know. Probably not.
Are you looking for a sponsor? I think if we share this podcast with one of the major vineyards, they're like, oh, yeah.
Actually, it's a good idea, right?
You never know. Sponsored by Kendall Jackson.
In a box.
In a box. Well, wine's wine, honey.
Wine is wine, exactly. Cheaper, too.
I think, the whole thing for you doing the, those whole professional development Fridays is that it is social.
Right.
And that it is having fun. And I think you relate it to your students. If they are doing something that's fun, they don't even realize they learned.
Right. Exactly.
They don't. It's like, boom, I just taught you. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing for our colleagues.
Right.
It's like, now you know how to create your own class.
Wow. Okay. We're going to start. We have about a few more minutes left.
Sure.
But I want to get through these thoughts of mine.
Yep.
And quickly. Time-saving tip. How do you have any time-saving tips for teachers out there? Organizational tips. Something that gets you need to do right now or do the work now and so that it can help you in the future.
Never check your email first thing in the morning.
Wow.
Period. I mean, honestly, I get to work. I don't check my email because once you check email, it's a black hole.
Big time suck.
It's a black hole because I got to think about this now. I got to think about that.
Right.
So once you get into work in the morning, assuming all things equal, you have your cup of coffee, you don't have any appointments for the next hour or for 30 minutes even. Gather your thoughts. Create your own inbox. And again, this is really good analog-wise. Your inbox could be just a piece of paper. Put a date on it. These are the things that I need to get through today. And then ask yourself, what are the things that I can do in the next 2 minutes?
Right.
That I can just cross off my list.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
If I just need to send an email, remember, you're just sending the email. You're not reading your email.
Not reading the emails, right.
Right. And by the way, on Gmail, know your shortcuts. It makes your work so much faster. So if you're just going to compose an email, hit C and compose your email and then send and be done with it. Cross it off your list. So don't check your email first thing. I think that's what we tend to do.
Right.
But then it's amazing how much time gets by you. And creating your analog inbox is going to be so much easier. You sit down, dump everything that you have that's going on in your mind that'll free you up to face other things later. And also will tell you what your priorities are for that day.
Right.
So yes.
Powerful stuff. And I got to do that too. I mean, I'm always checking my email also, even off campus. And
I was hoping that you checked your email this morning.
Yes,
I did. I'll see you at 10.
I did.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard,
right? Yeah.
But it's time management is every day. It's not like you go to the gym and then I tell them, this is something I tell my students all the time. Time management is not like working out and losing weight. You don't go to the gym, you lose your weight, then say, okay, I'm done. Right? Then you stop going.
Right.
That's not how time management works. Time management is every day. It's,
right.
Just like weight loss is how you eat your food. It's
right.
how you take care of yourself, how many hours of sleep. Time management is a practice.
It's a habit.
It's a habit.
Right.
Oh, another book you have to read, Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit.
The Power of Habit, yes.
Yeah, it's a fantastic
I saw
book.
that book. It's on my Amazon queue right now. So
it's fantastic. We are creatures of habit. And the things that we do really help to create some of the situations that we're in. And we don't realize it and how powerful those things are. So that's a really great book to read for parents and for teachers alike.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool. Remember to turn off the email. Well, not turn it off, but actually don't check on it.
Yeah. Until you're ready.
Until you're ready. Yeah. Yes, it's true. Okay. So last two questions that I have in mind. What's the best advice you ever received? Now, I know you talked about the person from Harvard that came by to talk, but you talk about that moment. Is there another moment or advice that you received from anyone that you received that you really resonate with, even to this day?
A really important piece of advice. Is that right? Piece of advice?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Create your personal brand.
What does that mean?
So, at its most simplest, if you are going onto Google and you search yourself, God help you. Sometimes that's not always a good thing, but if you search for yourself, you should be well represented in the top results. Right. So if you pull up on your browser, your top 5, the first 5 that come up are the ones that have the most hits related to you. So creating your own brand really means understanding what your philosophy is. What is your personal philosophy about teaching? What is your personal philosophy as a parent? And to be mindful about thinking about those things. So your brand is who you are as a person, the things that you do, the things you collect, your mindset. Oh, yeah. Carol Dweck, mindset. That's also, add that onto your list.
Mm-hmm. Big one in our school. Yep, big one too.
That's a big one. That's a big one. But being able to create your personal brand means how do you represent yourself in all ways. And I think we look at it for social media. And I look at social media and how I represent myself online. Right. And I think both of us, having had early online lives, now have a lot of regret about some of those things.
You can't search for my old stuff anymore. I can't. I tried. Fred? I tried, but I know it's somewhere there.
I'll show it to you because I know where it is.
You have special Google powers.
I do. I have Google powers. But I think creating your own brand really is about your own philosophy, and creating the time and the space to really cultivate that and understand what that is. So I would encourage everyone to do that. Think about what your brand is. When someone says Fred Jaravada, what do they think of?
What do you keep pulling my name in?
Well, because you're right in front of me. Okay, so when I think about you, when I think about you, I think about you as a teacher.
Right.
I think about you as a Raider fan. I think about you as part of a DJ group. Right? Remember
way back, yes.
Way back in the day. And I think about you as a USF student. Mm-hmm. And in another order, these are not in order, but I, definitely think about you as a friend and, dear friend and a roommate. And that whiteboard conversation, I feel like is a jumping off ground for a lot of our work together.
It was. It
really
it's amazing,
is.
Yes. I keep referring back to it.
Because if you look back at your classroom now, right, it has the whiteboard.
It has the whiteboard, right? It came back around, right?
It's full circle. My wall is I look at my world as what are whiteboards I could use. So I look at this door. We could write on this door right now if I wanted to, because it's glass. And then we can, create things. And so you can create things anywhere.
Right.
But you need to really be mindful about creating yourself. So creating your own brand is really important because don't let someone else define you. Mm-hmm. You have to define what yourself is, and you have to understand yourself, know yourself, be reflective, and be intentional about your brand, whatever that might be.
Wow. It's very powerful. No, Char, this is amazing. This is an amazing interview. It's one of the most inspiring. I'm so honored to have you for this episode. Really enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. Is there something you want to share about how people can get in touch with you, or your Twitter handle you would mention, and so on?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at iTweetUSF, and that is my work Twitter. So you can always hit me up there. People do all the time.
Yes.
You can find me on LinkedIn as well.
LinkedIn.
I think did I update my picture on there? So anyways, yes, probably. I'm on there. And I also get messages there too. So by all means, I'm also on Facebook too, so you can always leave messages for me there. And also through Fred. So he knows how to get a hold of me if you have any questions. And I'm happy to reach out. I think, let's connect. I think connecting is really important to build your network and also to kind of ask those questions. And I think that's what's really important about podcasts like this, is that we get to ask each other things we don't have. I mean, if we were out at New Year's Eve together, right?
Yes.
And not New Year's Eve,
Christmas Eve, yes.
So we were out together, and it's like I wanted to have all these questions and to ask about all these things that you're doing, and this is such a fascinating opportunity to be able to share this time in your space with all your students. They're so cute. They keep looking inside, like, what are they doing in there?
Well, you know what? This could be a start of your new podcast. Podcast,
so
maybe
we'll
Hug
see.
the Cactus.
I know, because I'm thinking about doing that too, and I do have the budget, which is fantastic. So
cool.
I might need to ask.
Yes, definitely.
I can share my booms with you.
Yes. With that, we're going to end this interview. Shar, thank you for the inspirational time that you gave us. Amazing stuff.
Keep inspiring us, Fred. Thank you so much.
right.
Bye, Sharon. I missed you.
See you, Carrie. Well, I'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Peace.
You don't have a sign off?
Thank you for listening to the Teaching Bites podcast at www.teachingbites.com.